Hola, good evening. Buenas tardes a todos. My name is Patricia Perez and I am AARP California's State President Emeritus. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our financial security series titled Let's Talk Dinero. Today, we're focusing on how to protect yourself and your assets from frauds and scams. I know how hard we all work to provide for our family and ourselves, growing our assets like buying a home and other investments. And today we're going to talk about how to protect those hard-earned assets and how to recognize and avoid scams. To help us with today's discussion, it's my pleasure to welcome Rosario Mendez. Rosario is an attorney in the Division of Consumer and Business Education of the Federal Trade Commission Bureau of Consumer Protection, where she works on fraud prevention, cybersecurity education for small businesses, charity fraud issues, which is a big scam, Latino outreach, and other projects. Her work supports the agency's mission to protect all consumers from deceptive and unfair practices through law enforcement and consumer education. Bienvenida, Rosario. Welcome.
Gracias, Patricia. Saludos a todos.
Saludos,
Hello.
Rosario. And for those of us who are not familiar with the FTC, with the Federal Trade Commission, please tell us a little bit about it and what you do there.
Of course, the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, is the nation's consumer protection agency. So we're a federal agency. I am in the headquarters office in Washington, D.C., but we do have regional offices in California, one in Los Angeles and one in San Francisco. So you can look us up locally in California. And the way that we work basically is that we protect consumers in several ways. We stop fraud and deception and unfair practices through law enforcement. So we're mainly a law enforcement agency. So the FTC does investigations, those companies and people that break the laws or tries to get money, tries to trick people into scams. Many of those cases are based on reports that we get from people. So that's why we always say, please report fraud to the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov. The other way that we help protect consumers is through education and outreach, and that is where I work. I'm in the Division of Consumer and Business Education, so we tell people about their rights in the marketplace and to the businesses about their responsibilities to protect people's information and financial information. So we share, a lot of blogs, and we have a lot of consumer information online and in print that people can access to learn about scams, and then also pass that information on to others in their community, because we do know that the more that we talk about frauds and scams, the more prepared we are to spot it when it happens and then avoid them.
Absolutely. You and the FTC must have your hands full all the time with the scams that we hear about all the time. But before we continue our discussion, I know that we're a small group today, but we're videotaping this, so those who are not able to join us can view this video later on. But before we continue our discussion, I want Rosario to know a little bit about who is with us. So if you don't mind just participating in a poll, and this is really, a true or false. I have been a victim of a fraud, scam, or know somebody who has been a victim. And really, no one should be embarrassed about being a victim. Scammers are getting so sharp and aggressive. It's unbelievable what they can get away with. So that's also why ARP is so committed to helping, all of us be better prepared. Yeah. So, all right. So bottom line, yeah, people, yeah. Let's see. There it is. So yeah, bottom line, people are very worried about this, Rosario. It's a problem and it's serious. And Rosario, what are the top scams at a national or California level that you are seeing out there?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, when people report fraud to the FTC, those reports go to a database called Consumer Sentinel database. And so that's how we know what kind of scams are happening and what people are experiencing. So people share the information with us. And what I can tell you is that in last year in 2022, the number of reports that we received of fraud went down, but the amount of loss that people reported losing to a scam went up a lot. So in total, at the national level, people reported losing $8.8 billion to fraud. So it's a lot of money, and it's a lot more than previous years. And what we saw specifically in California is that in California also there was a somewhat of an increase in the amount of loss. In California, we saw that the top scam reported in 2021 was imposter scams, which tracks with the national trend. And for California, the second most reported was credit bureaus and problems with, issues with credit bureaus. And a lot of that has to do sometimes when people try to, correct or fix a mistake in their credit report, and they're having problems doing that for some reason. But the number one scam was imposter scam, as reported to the FTC, and the third one was online shopping. So California kind of tracks what we see at the national level. At the national level, what we saw in 2021 was the number one imposter scams, and the second one online shopping scams. But a close third was prizes and sweepstakes and lottery scams. We still see that a lot.
People are still falling for that. Ay, Rosario.
Yeah, and this is people that pay to claim a fake winning, some kind of lottery or some kind of sweepstakes. This can happen over the phone, or it can happen also over text, or or on social media. And speaking of social media, we did see an increase on in terms of the amount of scams that started in social media in 2022. So the highest overall losses to scam started in social media in 2022. So we do see that as more and more people are in social media, the scammers are there too, trying, their tricks and trying, to get people's information and money.
Rosario, you mentioned that the amount of loss is increasing, but the number is decreasing of reported scams. Is it that people are not reporting, or that they're just scammers are going for bigger numbers?
I mean, it could be the median reported losses was a lot higher. So, it could be that scammers are asking for more money. Investment scams was one of the top scams as well, and also business impersonators, business imposters, and those scams tend to take in a lot of money.
Sorry, before you change the subject, you said imposter was like the number one scam, right? Imposter. And what does that mean? That people impersonate somebody, or from a business perspective, or how does that work?
Yeah, so imposter scams is when someone pretends to be a person, like a family member or a love interest, like pretend to be someone else, or they pretend to be the government or an organization that is well known, and that and to trick you into either paying them or giving them personal information. So what we see is a lot of government impersonators or imposters. Impersonating Medicare and saying that you have to pay to renew your Medicare card, which of course is a scam because you don't have to pay for your Medicare card, or saying that there's a problem with your Social Security benefits and that you have to pay immediately. And of course, it's also a scam because the Social Security will never call you to ask you for money. They may pretend to be a family member, a relative, a grandson, a granddaughter, or someone in your family that is in trouble, maybe in another country or something like that. And the key is that they always say, don't tell anyone else. Don't tell my parents. Don't tell anyone in the family. Just send money so I can get out of this problem. And the second key of impersonator scams is that how they ask you to pay. They always ask you to pay either with gift cards or by cryptocurrency, or wiring money, because those are ways that are very difficult to detect and almost impossible to get your money back. So scammers ask you to pay that way. And what we always say is that the government or a reputable organization is not going to make you pay in those non-traditional ways. So that is really a sign of a scam. You can be sure that if someone is asking you to pay those ways, you're dealing with a scammer.
You know, Rosario, we've had this topic, we've covered this topic in the past, and it was interesting because somebody brought up at that time that people in uniforms were going around knocking on doors and saying they were with the utility and they were there to cut off your power unless you paid cash. I mean, and of course they went to in person, and they went specifically to non-English speakers. You know, so, you know, people are afraid.
That's
and
really scary.
you look, you look official, you know, with a uniform, but so that's the imposter, the number one scam. And you also mentioned credit card bureaus. That was the second one that you mentioned. How does that one work?
In California, that is just people, those are just the reports that we get. People, I think a lot of times there are people that are having problems with their credit reports. Like maybe they have some information in the credit report that is showing as negative, and maybe it's inaccurate, like it's not their own, their own debt or their own, account, and they need to go through certain steps in order to fix their credit report. And that can get complicated. Each of the credit bureaus have their own way to fix inaccurate negative information from your report, and so you have to file different documentation and follow different procedures with each of the credit bureaus. And a lot of times people get frustrated with the with the process, and it can get complicated. So it could be that that is some of the problems that people are experiencing. But in terms, our category for credit bureaus is very large. So it's like credit bureaus and furnishers information. And so it all has to do with, your credit report and the information that is in your credit report. And as people try to, maybe see things that are negative and try to fix them, maybe they are finding obstacles and maybe they're reporting it to us. It's really important for people to know that they can access their credit report for free. If they go to annualcreditreport.com, that is the one place where they can access their credit report for free from the 3 credit bureaus. And right now, Patricia, you can access it every week. So it regularly is once a year, but because of the pandemic, the credit bureaus agreed to let people see their credit report every week because they were having, people were having more and more issues with their credit report. And so one of the best ways to monitor what's happening with your credit history is to check your credit report often. So right now you can do it for free every week at annualcreditreport.com until December of this year. So I encourage everyone to do that because it's a way to find out what is happening in your credit history. If anyone has opened accounts on your name, has taken your information somehow, you haven't realized it. The one way to know is if it shows up on your credit report.
Perfect. And Rosario, accessing these reports is not going to affect your credit, right? If you are doing it. Correct?
Right. It's not, because you're putting in the inquiry yourself.
All right. And also, I mean, that's good advice even to do it for children. If they have a social security number, access their credit report, because that's the other thing that we heard from ARP in one of the fraud workshops was that, many people don't think of children, and that's that's one way
right.
scammers.
I think that is great advice. You're right, Patricia. That is great advice. Thinking of your children, your teenagers, people that are going into college. Often people find that there are problems in their credit report, that there's something when they are looking for a loan, like maybe they're looking for a student loan, if they're going to college, or maybe they're buying a house, and they need a mortgage. And by then it's hard to deal, with the situation in a because sometimes it takes time to get these things squared away. So it's best to be on top of it and to check the credit report of your, any loved ones that you have, even if you are not expecting to use credit, just to make sure that what is there is your information.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that really stuck, in my mind, that people were saying that children are very valuable for scammers because it takes a long time for like parents or for them to get, understand what is happening. So for years they could be using their identity. But anyway, in our
True.
in these Let's Talk Dinero sessions, we've covered also investments in the past. Can you tell us a little bit about investment fraud, including like real estate? And people also, they question but are not sure about cryptocurrency. Can you also tell us about that?
Sure. Yes, cryptocurrency is it's also something that we are seeing in terms of how scammers are asking you to pay more and more. So it's important to know what it is, and and how you can avoid a cryptocurrency scam. So you probably know that cryptocurrency is a type of digital currency that generally exists only electronically. So people use their phone or their computer or a cryptocurrency ATM to buy cryptocurrency. And some of the most popular ones are Bitcoin and Ether, but there's plenty others. And what we do see is that people need to understand that cryptocurrency accounts are not backed by a government. So the FDIC, for example, backs accounts in banks. But not in cryptocurrency. So that's one thing. It's not backed by any government. Cryptocurrency values also change constantly, so there's a risk to their value. And when you pay with cryptocurrency, that payment doesn't come with any legal protections, and it's usually not reversible. So those are some things that people should be aware in terms of, if they decide to buy cryptocurrency, invest in cryptocurrency, and use it as a payment method. And as I said before, the scammers, only scammers are going to demand that you pay in cryptocurrency. So if someone is asking you to pay with cryptocurrency, and that is the only method that they are going to accept, you can be sure that it is a scam. And so I would walk away. Also, in terms of investing in cryptocurrency, we hear that a lot. Oh, you can invest right now in this new, crypto that is coming up, and you can be one of the first people, and it's going to make a lot of money. I can tell you that only scammers will guarantee profits or will guarantee big returns, because this is an investment and there's always a risk with investment. So don't trust people who promise that you can quickly and easily make money in the crypto markets, because that is usually just impossible to guarantee, right? And the other thing that we see a lot is crypto investments mixed with online dating. And this is just so interesting to me, but it's really happening a lot, where you meet someone online on a dating site, and after you've had a relationship with this person, they tell you, oh, I am an expert on investing in cryptocurrency. If you give me your money, I can invest it for you and make a lot of money. And so that is a romance scam mixed with a cryptocurrency investment scam. And so I would just watch out for any dating interest that tells you that they can help you, invest your money in cryptocurrency, because it could be a scam.
I mean, you mentioned that these prizes and lotteries are still one of the top scams. So I can totally see scammers going for cryptocurrency. It's, it's in the news, we hear about it. Those of us who may not be as, digitally proficient, it sounds like we're missing out. And I can totally see scammers kind of, fleecing us with, just us wanting to make a good deal, a good investment. But I guess unless we really understand, we shouldn't put our money into it. And like you said, man, with the romance scams, that's so painful.
Yeah, it is. And we do see a lot of romance scams, fortunately, mixed with the investment cryptocurrency scam. But I think that the more that we talk about this kind of things, the more people are aware, and can pass on that information to others too. And that is why it's really important. Why I think it's really great that AARP does this kind of talk, because when you start talking about these things, then then you have a reference, a point of reference, and then you can, the next time that something like this happens to you, then you're like, wait, I heard about this. Let me be more cautious. Let me talk to someone else about it. Let me just not pay right now and kind of think about it more. And the more that you talk to someone else and discuss the situation, the more you're going to realize this is probably a scam. I should really check.
Exactly. And we're actually here to answer people's questions. So if anybody has a question, they can just add it to the chat or the comments, and we'll try to get to it. But this is just a conversation. Rosario, I don't know if you have a PowerPoint you want to share, but I love just being able to, throw things, and you're just a wealth of information. So Rosario, you do this all the time. So what are the tips that you can provide us to help us protect our assets, our money, or our identity? We're starting to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. I think it's really important for people to just be on guard all the time in terms of what scammers want is your personal information. And when I say personal information, it's your social security number, your Medicare number, your health insurance number. Those kind of, that kind of personal information is what is valuable to a scammer, because then they can get that and open accounts on your behalf, use your Medicare benefits, use your health insurance benefits. So guard your social security number cards and all the other information. You don't need to carry it around unless you're going to use the Medicare card at a doctor's appointment, for example. But your social security card, you really can keep it at home in a safe place. You don't need to carry it around, in case that your wallet gets stolen or something like that. Then at least it's not there. I would say don't share personal information when someone asks, just because they're asking you. A lot of times you pick up the phone and on the other line is someone that says that it's from the government, or that says that it's something important, and starts asking you questions to try to get you to share information with them on the phone. And I would just say, hang up the phone, maybe take the person's name and number and hang up the phone, and think about what they're asking you, and call someone else that you trust to kind of discuss the situation and be like, someone called me from this agency. Is this true? Do I really need to give them personal information? So it's kind of like, just don't share information right away. Stop and don't share anything over the phone immediately with a stranger that calls you.
Verify.
It's important to also,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's important. I think that's just really important, because a lot of the scams happen over the phone. I mean, we did see that in 2022, the scams that started, that people lost a lot of money on scams that started on social media, but the phone still is one of the ways that scammers are contacting people. So it's important to, just kind of like spot that scam and hang up.
Mm-hmm. Recently I went to a new doctor, and you know how they give you the forms that you need to fill out. It's just a standard form, but in there, not only all my personal information, they also wanted my social security number. And it was interesting because all I said was like, I don't want to put my number, and they go, okay, fine, you don't need to. And that was that, that was that. But it was just like, all I saw was like one form with all my information. And, so, I mean, there was just at least one piece by social security number, but it was just crazy. When I said no, they said no problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good example, Patricia, because it happens all the time. I mean, sometimes the medical office may be using an old form that no one has changed, and it still has, the blank for your social security, but they don't really need it if they have your health insurance. Now, some health insurance do require that the primary carrier, provide their their social security number, but it's best just to ask first, why do you need my social security number? And a lot of times it's going to be like, no, you don't need that. We have the what we need. So it's just kind
Exactly.
of like creating a culture of, protecting your valuable information, knowing that it's valuable and that you should protect it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I like the tip that you said, like, if they call you and it sounds official, you know there's always going to be a phone number that you trust, that you know from a statement or from something that you can call. So not the number that they give you, right? The number that you can verify, like, why is my bank calling me? Why is the government calling me? So
That's right.
yeah. Let's see, here's another quick true or false question that we're going to ask, and just to assess people's knowledge on the issue. And the question is true or false. Let's see, is somebody going to put it up? Is we always pay mortgage lenders upfront for services to lower mortgage payments. So should we pay upfront and that way it lowers our mortgage payments? I think that is nailed. I think we know the answer to that one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question. And one that people should be, on the lookout for, because a lot of times what we see are scammers asking upfront for fees for services that they haven't even looked at your documentation. We see this with mortgages, but we also see it with debt relief, for example, like debt relief services. They can't charge you an upfront fee if they haven't offered you any service yet. So watch out for those upfront fees. It's best to, think they haven't even looked at my documentation. How are they charging me already?
Yeah.
If they don't even know, like, what is it that I need, or what my credit card, my credit record is like, and all of that. So
Yeah. And Rosario, we have a question. It pretty much is that we are overwhelmed with the number of attempts, right? Like emails and phone calls and social media and clickbait, on social media, always trying to access. And somebody said that they're constantly notified that somebody's trying to access their account. Is there anything we can do to protect ourselves or to limit these calls, these, emails, all of this? Anything?
yeah, so
Una migajita, any kind of help?
so there's a few things. So on the phone, you can block unwanted calls. So there are ways that you can block some of these robocalls that you don't want to get. So if you go to fcc.gov/calls, you'll see information on how to do that. But basically, on your cell phone, if you have a cell phone, check if you have built-in features, because some cell phones do have a built-in feature where you can block a call. So if you get a robocall and you know that it's one of these government imposters, for example, you can block that number. You can also contact your service provider and find out what kind of blocking service they offer. Sometimes they charge a monthly fee, but it may be worth it if if it really is going to block some of these unwanted calls. And then, just make sure that you find out what is already in your phone and what is already being offered through your service provider. Right now, we are seeing some service providers that are identifying some scam calls as scam likely. You may see it on your on their caller ID. Sometimes it says scam or scam likely. Well, listen to that. If you decide to pick up that call, make sure, be on the alert, because that means that the technology behind that call, the service provider has been able to identify that maybe it's coming from a place, or, that the number is being sort of like identified as suspicious. So that's one thing. on your home phone, you can also ask your service provider for call blocking services, and also call labeling devices. So those are some things that you can do to try to block these calls. But another thing is, if you get a call that you identify as an illegal robocall, or a call of an impersonator, that is a scam, don't press any numbers. A lot of times these scammers ask you, press number 1 to talk to someone, or press number 2 to get out of our list. Don't press any number. It's best to hang up and don't press any number, because if you press a number, what happens is that then that identifies that number as a good number for the scammer. So then they're going to continue calling you because they know that someone is picking up that phone, that number. So it's best to just hang up the phone and don't engage. Some people are worried about not picking up the phone because then they think that they're going to miss a call, and I totally understand that. But if you do have a voicemail system, and it's a legitimate call, they're going to leave you a voicemail. So that's also, it's up to you if you want to pick up the phone or not. But I tend not to even pick up the phone if I don't know who's calling me, if it's a number that I've never heard of before.
And
So that's what I do personally.
And Rosario, and like, for example, you don't answer, so you just let it go into your machine and they leave the message?
Yes.
All right. I know. It's like a no-win, right? It's a no-win.
I know. But there are some things that you can do. I mean, I think, but it's, there's just so many, it's so easy for them to place these calls using technology. It's like thousands and thousands of calls in a second.
I know.
But using call blocking can help. Don't trust your caller ID, of course, if it says, that is the IRS or is the Social Security number, Social Security Administration, or anything like that. Just know that they can be manipulating the caller ID, so don't trust your caller ID. If you pick up the call, just be, still be on the alert. And if you decide to pick up and you spot that it's a scam or it's something suspicious, don't press any number, don't engage. I would just hang up.
Yeah.
And if you're worried about it because you're like, well, maybe that's what really was Social Security Administration, and there's a problem, call the Social Security Administration or the business to a number that you know is correct and verify. So we're seeing, for example, a lot of text messaging from FedEx or from Amazon, and it's really a scammer trying to get you to click on the link so that you engage, and then maybe you give them information. If you're expecting a package from FedEx, or if you have an Amazon account and you're like, maybe I'm not gonna click on that link because I don't know if it's real or not. I'm gonna check my Amazon account, or I'm gonna check with customer service if there is a problem with my package, instead of just acting, right away. I know it's a little more steps that you need to take to protect yourself, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Better be safe. And before we change the subject, Priscilla wrote the number. So the site, the consumer.ftc.gov/features/how stop unwanted calls. All right. So that's a good.
You can also go to ftc.gov/calls. ftc.gov/calls. That's easier.
ftc.gov/calls. All right. Now you started at a subject that interests us all, online shopping. So online shopping. So we have one question, and the question is, of course, there's many sites where you're buying, right? All these online marketplaces. And what is better? Is it better? How should we pay? For example, on OfferUp, is it better to just send the money online or do it in person, or what would be the best way to protect ourselves when we're buying online?
Oh, you mean like a marketplace where you're buying from another person? Oh, I see. Well, I think it's important to I think the best advice would be to make sure that you know who you're dealing with. So like a lot of times people are asking for are offering a product for very, very low price. So I would be a little suspicious about that. Like if you know that the price it goes for a certain amount, even if it's used, it goes for a certain amount, but they're offering it at a very, very low price. I would be suspicious about that. I also would be suspicious if they want to talk to you outside of the platform where you are trying to make the deal. So if they say, oh, just give me your email or your cell phone and I'll call you directly or something like that, I would be suspicious about that because those platforms allow you to communicate with the prospective buyers and prospective sellers. And so if they ask you to communicate outside of the platform, I would be suspicious on it about that as well. I would also be suspicious if they say that they're going to send you a check for more, or they're going to give you a check for more of the amount that you're asking for the product, and that and then they ask you to, deposit that check and send them part of the money, the extra money. I would be worried about techniques like that because even if it sounds like the story is real, like, oh, all I have is a check for, much more amount for whatever reason, but if you deposit it, you can take the money for the product and then you can send me the rest. It may sound like it's okay, but the thing is that it's probably a fake check. By the time that the bank realizes that there's really no funds in that check, you've already given the other person some money, and it's your own money. You're responsible for that because it does take a couple of days for the bank to realize that the check isn't real, even if it shows up on your account. So those are some things that I would be kind of look on the lookout for. I have bought and sold things on some of these platforms, and it can work if you just need to make sure that you're kind of like on the alert and you're weeding the people that look a little suspicious or that are not telling you like the exact information that you want, or that are asking you to pay in a weird way, like I just described, with a check that is larger than for the amount that you're asking, or with gift cards or something like that.
Yeah. I do a ton of online shopping too, but one of the things that I do is I only shop on platforms where the platform gets the money, but they don't release the funds until I get the product. And then they release the funds to the vendor. So they become like the third party. So that way they ensure that both are legit. So I only, use those, those marketplaces. So I'm not going directly to the vendor. That's, and like you, I've sold and bought a bunch of stuff. The other thing that I'm seeing now quite a bit are all these emails saying your package, to track your package, click here. Because I used to buy so much, I would lose track of of what I bought. So now I take notes because I would get these emails, like click here to track your, and it's like, nope, not anymore.
That's a really good idea to keep record of the things that you buy, especially online, because that way you know when the package is arriving, and then you're not tempted to click on some random email that is sent to you that is trying to trick you into that same thing, into believing that there's something wrong with your package and you have to click on it. On emails, it's and on tags, those links can be problematic, not just taking you to a fake website where they may ask you for, personal or financial information, but they also could be downloading something to your computer that then could be like tracking you after that and tracking your passwords and things like that. So, we're very careful with email, and that you're not really sure. I wouldn't click on any link. It's best to just check.
Yeah. And believe me, when you're online shopping and you realize that sometimes scammers go for small amounts, right? Small amounts. So things that you're just going to go like, it was only $20, right? But when they're doing it to, hundreds of thousands of people, you can see how profitable it would be for them.
Yeah, true.
But I mean, I would imagine for $20, people are not going to, report it. But can people do if they actually do become a victim of fraud, especially something sizable, like any recourse? Should they just report it?
Yeah, so and we have some information at ftc.gov/scams on what to do if you were scammed. There's certain steps. If you ask quickly, your chances of getting your money back are increased. So you gotta ask kind of quickly. So if you paid a scammer, for example, with a credit card, or a debit card, the best thing is to contact the company or the bank that issued that card immediately. Tell them that you made a fraudulent charge and ask them to reverse it and to give you the money back. If you paid a scammer, for example, from like somehow there's an authorized debit or withdrawal from your bank account that you see that there's money going from your bank account, directly contact your bank and tell them that there was an unauthorized debit or withdrawal from your bank account and ask them to reverse it. So if you act quickly, your chances increases. If you pay with a gift card, same thing. Contact the company that issued the gift card and tell them that you used that unfortunately you paid a scammer with a gift card. They have the ability to track where that money is and to stop the gift card if it hasn't been used. So I think it's as long as you try to act quickly, there are some things that you can do. Same thing with the wire transfer companies. We see a lot of people sending money via MoneyGram or Western Union, those wire transfer companies. If you realize that you made a wire transfer through one of these companies and it was a scammer, tell them right away that it was a fraudulent transfer. Ask them to reverse the wire and give you the money back. And on our website, we put the contact information for these companies, the phone number that you need to call, and the numbers of the gift cards, the most common gift cards as well. So you have the resources right there, and it's at ftc.gov/scams, and in Spanish, ftc.gov/estafas.
Rosario, here in California, we had some really bad floods recently, and people obviously experienced lots of damage to their property, their homes. Can you tell us, I'm sorry, and we also heard about home improvement scams, with that, people just preying on victims. Can you tell us how to avoid this type of scam?
Yeah, so like you said at the very beginning of our conversation, the scammers are always following the news and looking to see where are people's focus, where the focus is, so that they can go there and try to confuse people, try to offer them services that they can't, that they really can't offer, and promises that they can't comply with. And so with disasters, with, when people are in need of fixing their home or, anything like that, the scammers are also out there, unfortunately. So I think my best advice to you is that, if someone is knocking on your door, looking for business because they're in the area, I would just be a little cautious about that, because that's one of the tactics that scammers use. Scammers also say that they have materials leftovers from a previous job. For example, it's like, oh, well, we're offering this really cheap because we have materials from a previous job. They also pressure you to make an immediate decision. They say that they can do this deal right now, or it's going to be tomorrow. The deal is not going to be there. Don't let them pressure you, because a legitimate business, a legitimate contractor would stand by their estimate. It's not going to be like today or nothing. That is another tactic that scammers use. Scammers also ask you to pay for everything up front, and they say that they only accept cash. And of course, a lot of contractors only accept cash because that's just easier for them and everything like that, and I understand that. But you do have more protection when you pay with a credit card. So because a credit card does give you a protection if the service isn't finished or something happens, at least you can claim, you can put in a claim with your credit card company. But with cash, once you pay, is gone. So those are the kind of some of the things that I would watch out for. Also, if the scammer, there are a lot of times require building permits that you need to get in a construction. And if they tell you that you need to get the required permits, I would be worried about that too, because legitimate contractors, they get the permits because they're the ones that are doing the building. So they usually are the ones that are getting the building permit. So I would be kind of cautious if someone tells you, that they can't get it and that you have to do it yourself. So those are just kind of some of the things that I have seen, and that the advice that we have. I think the Home Builders Association, they have local branches, and they have, advice on, on some of these things, and you can just look, locally in your Home Builders Association and also your Consumer Protection office as well, because a lot of times the contractors have to be registered with the local Consumer Protection Agency in order to do business in your area. So that's another way to kind of check to see if the contractor that you're thinking about hiring has the permission required to do business in your area.
Perfect. I also want to mention that AARP's Fraud Watch Network provides information and tools needed to protect you and your loved ones from frauds and scams. And I encourage everyone to visit our website at fraudwatchnetwork.org. So fraudwatchnetwork.org, or call 877-908-3360. 877-908-3360. So there's also, ARP has so much information available as well. So let's see, there's a question, Rosario, that it said, it says, I received an email from my bank about a CD investment, and the transaction is all online. Is this safe?
Well, I think that what I would recommend is that you either call or go directly to your bank and find out. I think probably calling it to a number that is real, from one of the statements that you get. I wouldn't trust something that is, just on email, just because there are so many impersonators out there that can create emails that look like they're from your bank. The other thing is usually, your bank, if your bank is sending you something, you usually have to get into your account in order to, to access that product. And I wouldn't want to do, I wouldn't do it straight from an email that I get, because again, I don't know if that is really my bank or if it's someone impersonating the bank. So I would just go directly to, open a new browser and go to the bank and try to see if that CD offer is there, or like I said, just contacting the bank directly and find out if if that offer is really something that you can do and how you can access it without using the link on an email.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you do not feel comfortable doing financial transactions online, don't do it, right? You need to feel safe and comfortable doing business the way that you want to. If it's in person, go to your branch, call your bank, do whatever you need to do. And here's one question that every Latino is familiar with. And it says, my friend's uncle is a handyman and suggested that I hire him to do some home repairs. He does not have a business license. Should I still write a contract and hire him?
Well, I kind of like that you're at least thinking about writing a contract. I mean, I totally get it. It happens. It depends on your comfort level. If it's in this situation, I think having a contract and putting it in writing, the things that, that you're agreeing so that you both know what the work is going to be required is a really good idea. The fact that they don't have a license or don't have insurance then becomes a problem if there is a problem. Like if someone gets injured, during the construction, or if there's a problem with the window that they put that didn't, was the wrong size or something like that, there's no insurance to help you pay for the damage that's been caused. So those are just things that you need to think about.
No, absolutely.
in
And
this situation.
I mean, we all want a deal, right? We all want to be able to save a little bit of money, and man, helping somebody out, right? Helping, a gente out there, you would want to do that, but it's, you really need to be careful and be aware. And like you said, if they don't have insurance, they don't have a license. So think twice about that. And Rosario, you've been just a wealth of information, and all the tips that you give. But any final comments to help us keep our dinero protected? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I would just say, keep on the alert, be in touch with the FCC. We issue blogs and consumer alerts daily. So if you go to ftc.gov/consumer alerts, and we do them in Spanish too, and you're going to get that email every day with the different twists and trends that we're seeing. And it's a way to really just kind of be in the alert and be in the know of what's happening. And then you can share that information with others in your community. If you're on social media, you can share it straight from the blog, from the FCC blog. There always we always have an image there as well. And so those are some ways to kind of stay on the alert and learn more. And also, I would just say report it, report. And it's very easy to do at reportfraud.fcc.gov. The site will ask you a few questions, that you'll answer very easily, kind of like what happened, who called you, what did they say, did you pay, how did you pay, things like that. But all of that, it really helps us know what's happening, investigate these scams, and shut them down. And if we can't shut them down for some reason, we can't establish a case because we don't have enough evidence or something, we can alert people about it. So the complaints really, really help us do our work and try to alert people about scams. And at the end, after you finish your report, you'll get some steps also to help you with whatever situation the scam may have caused.
That is wonderful. And you're absolutely right that reporting the scam just helps these organizations, report and track and help other people be aware. So no time to be embarrassed. This is a time to, let others know. And once again, the FTC has a ton of information, and it's Priscilla wrote it down, ftc.gov/consumer alerts, but just go ftc.gov and you can start navigating the site. And again, of course, AARP has fraud prevention resources and information on our website at aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. And you can also call the Fraud Watch Network at 877-908-3360. So, Rosario, mil gracias. Thank you for joining us today and for all the information that you gave us. And thank you to everybody. We will continue collaborating with financial experts across the state to talk about asset protection, debt management, caregiving costs, retirement planning, entrepreneurship, and much, much more. And please join us on June 19 for our next chat on entrepreneurship. So if you're interested in starting your own business, be sure to join us on June the 19th. So, Rosario, mil gracias por acompañarnos.
Gracias.
Yeah, and of course, you are also welcome to register for these events online, and you can also watch previous discussions, any videos any sessions that you've missed. You can watch the videos on demand at aarp.org/let's talk dinero. Once again, aarp.org/let's talk dinero. Rosario, thank you to all of you joining us. Mil gracias, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.